Hello, everybody. Scott Golden with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube channel. Here we got over 400 audios available in a variety of topics. Hopefully, something that you like will find you. If so, please feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and do all that good stuff. If there's some way we can be of service to you, we can always do that. Just leave a comment and we'll try to make that happen. If you are trying to kind of level up your emotional state and or the value of clearing your energy. That's something I work with people on a regular basis, and it ties in with today's topics of kind of when we have a soul level trauma. So, if that's something you're interested in working on one-on-one, there's two ways to get in contact with me. The first is going to my website, which is available in the About Me section of this YouTube channel, and or you can follow me on Twitter at PO Perception and send me a direct message. You can get in contact with me that way, and we can make that happen. Really want to help as many people as we can in 2021. Interesting times, to say the very least. So, what is a soul wound or soul hurt? And so, I'm gonna kind of go through that, in a condensed way here, and and ultimately, there's about 8 things I want to go through in this audio. If you carry secrets, no matter what they are, if you're carrying someone else's secret, if you're carrying a secret about your past, about your childhood, about abuse, about trauma, about fear, about your sexuality, about your identity, or anything, that will hurt your soul because it means at the end of the day, at least to a certain level or degree, you are having to perform in order to survive. And so performance can affect physical, mental, and emotional health in a negative way for the majority of people and often does. This is because having to keep up this charade, having to wear the mask constantly when you're in public or dealing with people becomes exhausting, which takes a toll on your levels of cortisol, takes a toll on your belief system, takes a toll on your beliefs about whether you'll ever fully be accepted completely at all or not, and how long you can, maintain in this way without getting caught, without being seen in a certain way that ultimately might not be a sense of weakness. The next thing in this process, which is equally valuable, is soul wounds can in fact happen when you are tired, or you're constantly exhausted, when you don't take time for self-care, when you don't take time to understand that sometimes you need to relax, sometimes you need to decompress, sometimes you need to say no to the people that matter to you so you can say yes later. And that's a huge one for lots of people for a variety of reasons. The reality of those reasons usually come down to the fact that, look, we can't always win people over when things are, where we want them to be. And there's only 24 hours in a day. And if we don't take time for self care, then we can't take care of anybody else. And that can be super overwhelming because in our society, when we say no, we fear the negative consequence of saying no to the point where lots of times we don't say no nearly enough. And when we don't say no, and when we refuse to say no, and when things, don't go according to the plan that we want them to, it can become extremely overwhelming. It can become frustrating. It can become emotionally painful and all sorts of just really uncomfortable things. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're right or wrong either way. It doesn't, at the end of the day, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter because it does, but it can get muddy when we don't take that self time on a consistent basis. Matter of fact, planning to take time to see if we need to take time for ourselves is usually a good idea. In any event, the misnomer that we're not good enough. Look, here's the truth. If you were born from a soul perspective, if you believe that we have a spiritual part of our being in some level, created by the universe, created by time and space, created by God, Goddess, or some other higher being, then we believe that we were created with a purpose. Therefore, if we're created with a purpose, that means at birth and from every point forward from birth, we were good enough to fulfill that purpose. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been put on us. Therefore, if that's true, if we radically accept that as true, then we are good enough. You are good enough. You always have been. You always will be. Now, you may not feel that way, But as I've mentioned in other audios, feelings are not a definition of identity, and unfortunately, lots of people make them that way. Um, the idea of not having love, be it family, be it friends, or most commonly romantic partner, because the preoccupation with romantic partnerhood, especially in Western culture, has become only worse over time. In other words, the idea that if you don't have somebody, there's something wrong with you can be completely overwhelming and can be a soul wound. Now, here's where that becomes trickier. If you engage in relationships just for the sake of having somebody, and a lot of people do this, I would say millions of people do this, then your belief in the love that you need when you finally leave a toxic or unhealthy or non progressive relationship is harder than if you took wider breaks between partners, which means at the end of the day, you're making your own life more difficult with your preoccupation with finding love. Also, there are every person that has ever been imagined, every scenario that's ever been imagined, somebody else has experienced it at some point, place, in time, which means the perfect partner for you. Notice I didn't say the perfect person because there is no such thing as a perfect person, but the perfect partner for you does exist, but you have to first be able to understand yourself completely, accept yourself completely, understand that the vast majority of people will misunderstand you because they're not vibing with you at the same level, be okay with being misunderstood, and ultimately find peace in it all. When we find peace, we no longer pretend to be things we are not. The pretension of being what we are not often cuts us off from making progress towards the things we truly want, and also causes us to become preoccupied with wasted potential, fear of failure, and all sorts of other things. These soul related wounds, all of which are interlinked, come down to the reality of every moment of every day we can choose what things mean to us, thereby creating a positive meaning, a neutral meaning, or a negative meaning. None of it matters until we make it matter, and that's the biggest thing of all. If you truly want your soul to move forward, then look at the things that are holding you back, give them a new internal meaning. Once they've been given a new internal meaning, moving forward becomes easier because now you have a new frame of reference to work with, and then you begin to make decisions from the new frame of reference rather than the old limiting belief system. And at the end of the day, that's what you needed to do in the first place. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. I encourage you to keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. We'll be back with more right after this.